tonight's fixture in the second half of Barça and Athletic Club. As things stand, Barça have a 1-0 lead thanks to O Capital, Rafinha, putting it into the back of the net, rounding Unai Simon after a brilliant ball to break the lines by Pedri. Who else, really? Well, so far in the second half, we're really yet to see any changes in personnel from Barça. We did see Rodri warming up. We did see Dani Olmo. Of course, for Barça, this game is a must-win. 2 out of 2 in La Liga would be a great start, especially after a transfer window that has been disputed by many, especially following the Julian Alvarez saga, which has now culminated in Miguel Angel Marin putting pride before actually honoring his word, reportedly, to Julian Alvarez and his entourage. And thus, as things stand, it does not seem as though Barca will be able to sign the Argentine Spider-Man, is essentially where we land with that. And so, with that in mind, of course, there are very, very few days left of this transfer window. And so that does pose the question as to whether Barca are going to look into signing a different striker. Are they going to look into putting that money into a center back? Are they going to keep that money and then go for Julian again in the Mercado de Invierno in the winter? Or how is it going to pan out? And obviously the answer to that is we'll have to wait and see. And as things stand, that is the reality. Joan Laporta went out and spoke about how he has great respect for Atleti. He has great respect for Miguel Angel Marin, and even went as far as to call him personally to try and inquire about Julian Alvarez. Atleti said that they had no intention of selling. This is, of course, the story per Joan Laporta, right? And so essentially what happened was Marin told him that they had no intention of selling. Barca say, all right, but if you do want to sell him, just know that we're interested and we really want this guy. We really want your player. If you plan to sell him. If you don't, so be it. And Laporta and Barca left it there as is. Again, according to Joan Laporta, an interview he did with the club, with the club's media, I should say. And then after that, Barca heard words and murmurs about him potentially being pushed towards leaving Atleti to another club. Of course, here's Lamine Yamal close. And the question is whether there was an offside call. He seemed to believe there was something, took a shot off the crossbar, brilliant strike, seemingly no foul play at all. And had he scored that, that would have been Barca's second, as he took a shot from the edge of the box, a curler once again, this time hitting the crossbar. Hasn't really had luck on his side as much, Lamine Yamal, as of late. But of course, no one is denying the talent. And surely now following, hopefully, the slow return to peak form after getting rid of the molestias, the discomforts with his injury, it's going to make life a little bit easier for the young superstar. But that was a close effort from Lamine Yamal, and again showing that he still got that, you know. And I don't think anyone is doubting that whatsoever. But truthfully, he hasn't been at his very best, and that's to be expected when you've played virtually every single game over the course of a La Liga season. You do kind of wear out at some point, and that's where we stand. Really, that's the situation. Now back to the Julian Alvarez saga. Just for those of you who haven't really been paying attention or haven't really been able to find the right information, essentially, this again, according to Joan Laporta, when they found out that he was being sold, Atleti were trying to reach an agreement with another club, presumably Arsenal, in terms of selling Julian Alvarez. Or maybe even this was at the time when Real Madrid supposedly had made a 100 and something million offer, or at least threatened to, which then obviously did not work out for them, as they proceeded to then have to pay the reported fees over 100 million for a certain Yan Diomande, who, at least the way I see it, has only had one really good season with Leipzig, and that's it. You know, he was in La Liga before, didn't really do much that was out of the ordinary, truthfully, and that's it. You know, so The market has taken quite a turn, which comes as a surprise to truthfully absolutely no one. And what we're seeing with the Julian Alvarez saga, with the extortionate amount of money that Atleti had put as his release clause, €500 million, which no club in the world would ever realistically be able to afford. Could of course then talk about whether, from a legal point, whether that's representative of his value when you compare it to his market value as a football player. And the answer to that would most likely be a negative. And so then obviously that could open the door for Julian Alvarez too. Should he still want to join Barca? Should he still want to leave? As Barca might be through here. Brilliant play from Firmino. Anthony Gordon. Gordon looks to pass it into Rafinha. It doesn't really reach him. Ultimately, he gets it. The cutback from Fermin Lopez doesn't work out. Gordon is on the ground. The Barca players are appealing. We'll have to see if there was foul play involved. And I'm going to need you to excuse me for just a second while I sort out some technical difficulties here with the stream. So just give me 1 second and we'll be right back with, well, to see if it's a penalty call or what's going to happen. So 1 second and I'll be right back. So we are back. No penalty for Barca. And it still is 1-0, 57 minutes in. Anthony Gordon is back up on his feet, walking, jogging. Doesn't seem to be in too much discomfort, which is always good to see. But to circle back to the point here, as Barca continue to pass the ball around, we'll see if they can create something out of the left-hand side. It's a great cross in towards Gordon. It's just dealt with by an active Athletic Club defense. It's a really, really good cross from that left-hand side. And of course, for those of you joining, I would be remiss if I did not present to you the lineups that grace this Spotify Camp Nou tonight, with 99,787 in attendance. So close to 100,000, which is amazing for a game that's just about started. Of course, Camp Nou now back in full action. League start, obviously, especially now with the demonstration that took place around match time. It's gonna be very packed, and it evidently is. So the lineups for Barca, the starting 11, which has so far not been changed personnel-wise in the slightest. Joan Garcia, of course, between the sticks. Defense is Gerard Martin, Paco Barci in the middle. Those two together. Eric Garcia on the right, and Xavi Espart with his new number 12 down the left-hand side, now on a yellow card. Pedri and Marc Bernal as the double pivot. Fermin Lopez behind Rafinha up front. Lamine Yamal on the right, and Anthony Gordon on the left. For Athletic Club, it is the now former Spanish international goalkeeper, the former starter in Unai Simon, of course, Yeray Alvarez and Aymeric Laporte, the center back pairing. You have Hugo Rincon on the right-hand side, and 22-year-old Joaneco Louis-Jean, the Frenchman, of course, on the left-hand side. Peo Canales and Jorge Guidar in midfield. Oyhan Senser, of course, as ever, the number 10. Well, wearing the number 8, but he's playing as a 10. In behind, Gorka Guruzeta, who's up front. And then Iñaki, well, the Williams brothers. Iñaki Williams on the right and Nico Williams on the left. Iñaki Williams has been taken off for Alex Berenguer just now, actually. So that is how it stands. And it is still 1-0. And what we're also seeing here is seemingly another substitution as well from Athletic Club, as Robert Navarro has been introduced. So Nico Williams is the one substituted. So the Williams brothers are both off the pitch, and truthfully have not been able to make much of an impact. Nico Williams had a good start to the first half, but hasn't really been able to do all that much, truthfully. Then again, neither has his counterpart in Lamine Yamal. Anthony Gordon has been trying and has been doing well, but Barca they've been able to keep control of the match, but they haven't really been able to suffocate Athletic Club like we saw against Elche, which they're two vastly different clubs. So that is to be expected. But now what we're seeing is Rodri and Dani Olmo ready to come on. Of course, for Rodri, his first ever game in a Barca shirt, of course, played with Atletico de Madrid when he first came through the ranks. Um, and also has played uh, with Manchester City, 7 glorious years from Rodri. And now playing for Barca. Rodrigo Hernandez, of course, uh, at this point, 30 years old and very, very experienced. So for Rodri, started off in Villarreal B, of course, Madrid born. Uh, got promoted to the first team in 2016. Played there for in 2015 actually. Was played with them, but was from what I recall still registered to Villarreal B up until about 2016. Then moved to Atleti and then Manchester City and now Barca. So a pretty solid career, really, just club wise. As Barca have a free kick here from the right hand side, and it's a very venomous strike from Fermin Lopez, who receives it around the back post. What a shot from Barca's new number 7. Of course, donning the number 7 shirt after the departure of Ferran Torres to El PSG, to Paris Saint-Germain, and has had a good start to life in Paris. But of course, left the number 7 shirt vacant, which has now been taken by Fermin Lopez, very deservedly so, and has really, really been showing himself from his good side these couple of games that we've seen him in, Fermin Lopez. Now, Rodrigo Hernandez, Rodri, who had Rodri on his shirt for most of his time in Manchester City, if not all of it, has actually decided to go with Rodrigo this time. Does keep the iconic number 16, as Fermin obviously switched from 16 to 7. Marc Bernal now comes off for Dani Olmo, and Rafinha comes off for Rodri, which obviously presents a very interesting question in who's going to be playing where. Presumably, this means we'll see a Pedri Rodri double pivot, which is very much expected. And then probably we're going to see Olmo at the 9 again, similar to what we saw against Elche. And what we're going to see again is Fermin and Olmo sort of interchanging that position. Right now, Fermin is more so playing as a right-sided central midfielder. Barca are really trying to get Rodri involved early on here with Paco Barci as well, trying to find him. Pedri does find Anthony Gordon down the left. Gordon tries to really get through with a burst of pace. Doesn't really work that time. Of course, for Barca, a lot of options off the bench as well in Karim Adeyemi, Hamza Abdel Karim, and many, many, many others. In fact, we look at Barca's bench. You have Alejandro Balde, of course, a lot of speculation about whether he was going to leave. He is probably most likely staying at this point in time, unless something drastic happens. Of course, also helped by the fact that Jofre Torrents has left. Alvaro Cortes has left also. So that obviously opens up some doors for Alejandro Balde, whose real only competition at this point would be Gerard Martin, who's more of a center back right now. Xavi Espart, who's still very young, as well as, of course, João Cancelo. Of course, shifting around the defense that way would mean that you could have Jules Koundé on the right, you could have Eric Garcia on the right, you could have Eric Garcia in the middle, or Koundé in the middle, Cancelo on the right, Balde on the left. So it does seem as though Balde's future still lies at Barca, at least for the time being, which is great news for a player with that much potential. Personally, I'm very happy if he does stay. Same thing with Jules Koundé. But the bench, Hamza Abdel Karim realizes that he's getting double teamed by a fellow defender as Barca attack again. A great cross from Anthony Gordon towards Fermin Lopez that's denied by Unai Simon. Lands for Eric Garcia, who tries to just tap it to Lamine Yamal. Overshot the tap, and as a result, goes out for a goal kick. Fermin seems to have gotten hit slightly in the head as Unai Simon was looking to punch that out. And truthfully, Fermin Lopez has been really getting physical tonight in this game, and really been trying to show himself from that side and really show that, I'm not just a flairful midfielder. I'm a physical one as well. And we saw that against Elche. We've seen that in the games that he has been playing recently. And he's shown it again tonight against a team that historically is very physical. As Athletic Club could be a 3. Alex Berenguer down the left. Berenguer looks to cut inside. Took way too long, and Barca have won the ball back. Eric Garcia clapping to his, seemingly to the referee for what looks like an offside call that was correctly made, as Berenguer was offside, and Barca back in possession once more is the way it stands. Now, for Barca, for those of you who like statistics as much as I do, you're looking at a 71% possession. You're looking at 15 shots, 6 on target to 1 shot registered from Athletic Club. Really, in the first half. So not a single shot in the second half. Barca have had, statistically speaking, 33 touches in Athletic Club's box, which is a lot of touches in the opposition box. And outside of that, have just been controlling the tempo very, very well. It hasn't been a game where that really has necessitated that they apply extremely high pressure, and yet Athletic Club haven't really been able to do much in transition. As Lamine Yamal now down the right side looks for a Trivela pass, does find Eric Garcia after a deflection. His cross is blocked by Aymeric Laporte, and it will be a corner for Barca. And Eric Garcia, to his credit, has again shown himself to be ridiculously versatile for a player that was on the brink of leaving the club when he got loaned out to Girona. Of course, a lot of talk about whether Girona were going to buy him permanently after that loan spell. He's turned out to be very close for Barca. Lamine Yamal has the ball hit on the right side after a good corner. Cross goes in, and it almost finds the head of Pau Cubarsí. Unfortunately for Barca, though, they do lose possession. Athletic Club looking to attack in transition. Pedri has gone all the way back and goes all the way to Anthony Gordon, who's come out to help. Now Pedri, the furthest man back, pretty much playing as a libero at this point. Now combining with Eric Garcia, Pedri looking to call for some help on the left-hand side with a brilliant ball. Breaking the line through here to Lamine Yamal. Lamine with a heavy first touch and completely ruins that chance as he took an extremely heavy first touch. Pedri once again with a ridiculous through ball, breaking the line completely and just not giving Athletic Club room to breathe as he really just threaded that ball through ridiculously well. Lamine Yamal looking to settle, and on the trap, the first touch was good. The second touch to really accelerate was what really killed off the chance, and as a result, Lamine Yamal wasn't really able to make much of that chance, and it's unfortunate. But again, he is a player who's still very young. He's a player who has a lot going on in his personal life, evidently as well. Especially with all the scrutiny that's surrounding his personal life, which is honestly just blatantly ridiculous. Because footballers are people too. They're humans. They have their needs. They have their lives, and that should be respected. That privacy should be respected and honored. And so that's not the case with Lamine Yamal, as has historically not been the case with many players in Spain, in Catalonia, in the Basque Country. It has not been the case. We've seen this ridiculous amount of scrutiny, almost in a way to fuel a certain agenda. That is, whether that's through people, whether that's through people around the environment of the club or the player, or just the media or the people on social media. It's just, it doesn't have place in football. It doesn't make any sense to focus on those things, and yet we unfortunately see it time and time again. And now Athletic Club with another, a double change here, it seems, as Adama, not Traore. Just thought I would make that clear. In fact, it is Adama Boiro coming on, as is Beñat Barrena, and not the Beñat that you're probably thinking of, who's now a coach. This is a 24, well, not a 24, 23-year-old Beñat. So a region of sorts, maybe you could say. But he does replace Jorge Guitar with Beñat, and Louis Jean, the left back, who's been well, he's played well, he's done well so far, comes off for Adama Boiro as the game remains 1-0. Unai Simon looking to clear his lines here, looks for a very long ball. Athletic Club attempted to do something with it, weren't really able to. Barca ultimately end up in possession again, as Rodri looks to create something here in the form of the start of an attack, and Barca now have the ball all the way back in their own defensive line, which is pushed very, very high at this point, nearing the halfway line. and now going back all the way to Joan Garcia, of course, the ex-Espanyol man, who's seen a lot of success since leaving the Cornea-based club and joining Barça, and and of course was not really featuring in the World Cup, as Luis de la Fuente had other ideas, which evidently won him the World Cup. So that is not to say that, of course, um, some people who antagonize Barca will obviously assume that as Xavier Spot gives it away here, it's really, really playing with fire. Does win it back, though, and does win it back well. Xavier Spot, as Athletic Club could have been able to pounce there. They've been a bit more clinical in their first touch, which again has been the theme of this game. As Lamine Yamal looks to attack here down the right-hand side, combining with Fermin Lopez. Lamine gets it, cuts inside, goes for a through ball here. It's a brilliant one to Anthony Gordon, and he's just missed it. Aiming for the near post, just missed it and hit the side netting. Great run from Anthony Gordon. Really great awareness from Lamine Yamal as well to hold up the play and take that touch inside, waiting for the option, knows it would arrive, and finds Anthony Gordon in a very, very good position. Unfortunately, though, for the Englishman, wasn't quite able to make it count, but does get a deflection on the way out. So as a result, it will be a corner for Barca. With Lamine Yamal stepping up to take it, Dani Olmo there for the short option should he wish to use it. As Lamine Yamal swings this in towards the back post, Barca have a man falling in the box. Referee says play on, and it is cleared ultimately by Athletic Club all the way back to the Barca back line as Pedri is going back to help support here. And of course, the question is that I don't think has been discussed at all, at least not in broad terms, is whether Rodri being an aerial threat means that you'll have to see other players shifting into defense when it is corner time. Because what we saw just then is Pedri, of course, again, furthest back. Dani Olmo actually pushing all the way back to right back to help defend should Athletic Club have a transition in play. And also just to offer an option is that Rodri tries to make a pass towards the left-hand side to Xavier Spar and company. Unfortunately, sees it deflected by Athletic Club, and it's a really good run here down the right-hand side. Can they find the cross in? They can, but it's this time denied by Rodri with a very good header out towards the edge of the box. It does fall back to Athletic Club. Another cross here towards the right-hand side, and it's cleared ultimately, seemingly by Pau Cuberti. No, it's not. It is headed out by Athletic Club themselves as they try to find a way into the back of the net. Unfortunately for them, though, unfortunately for Barca, truthfully, it is very much over the bar. And it's a good attempt from Gorka Guruteta, who hasn't really been able to do much this game, hasn't really had the support he's needed as their number 9, which again has also been an issue for Gorka Guruteta in recent seasons, really. Hasn't really been able to find that form to really be a threat consistently, and yet is a good striker. Does find good pockets of space, does make good runs, and is decently clinical when he's in front of goal. That one, not one of those chances as Alex Berenguer looking to combine here down the left-hand side, looking to bounce the ball over the head of Dani Olmo. Does not work. Barca now back in possession. Anthony Gordon on it here down the left-hand side as Fermin finds him. Gordon looking to go towards the byline, goes for a crossing towards the back post. It's denied by Adama. And Lamine Yamal looking to chase it down here as Athletic Club look to hold on to the ball and do so very, very well and skillfully too. As Adama Boira looks for a over-the-top ball here to beat the Barca back line and Eric Garcia specifically. They ultimately end up back in possession. The ball is at the edge of the box here, and a strike from distance hits the post and ultimately cleared by Eric Garcia. And again, this time it's Oyhan Sanset, who, for all intents and purposes, is a very dangerous player from long range, just from range, really. And Barca, of course, making the appeal here that Alex Berenguer pushed Eric Garcia off to the side to win the ball back, which on the replay does seem to be the case. However, all things considered, at this point, either you get a foul or Athletic Club get a corner and a real chance to score. We'll see what the referee ultimately ends up going with. And it does appear as though he's just given the corner as there was deemed to be no foul play on that push from Alex Berenguer, truthfully, on Eric Garcia. And Berenguer is the man to take the corner here from the left-hand side as Athletic Club have their fourth corner. It is headed towards the back post, and Athletic Club look to keep it alive. Barca look to clear it and do so well. And unfortunately for the Catalan side, not many players have stayed up, further up the pitch, which means that the ball does land back for Athletic Club. And Unai Simon can look to build something here off a long-range pass. Looking to find Berenguer, who has turned on the afterburners here. Can he beat Eric Garcia this time? Garcia says no, and it will be an Athletic Club throw in. Berenguer looking for a cross here. A very, very weak one, in truth, as he tried more of a pass and a bit of miscommunication there as Benyat thought he saw a run down the right-hand side, and the run didn't come. Is the short story there for Barca now? Another change imminent as Karim Adeyemi appears to be getting ready, presumably to replace Anthony Gordon. Although it would be nice to see both on the pitch at the same time, maybe even for Lamine Yamal. And this was around the same time Lamine Yamal got taken off against Elche. Of course, a lot of people saying that Lamine Yamal didn't seem happy with that. No player is ever happy getting taken off. But maybe that is what Barca need. So, well, maybe that's what Lamine needs. I guess, truthfully, is the better assessment there, or the more representative assessment would be that probably Lamine Yamal does need to not get overburned by all these games, and especially when Barca are leading and leading quite well, despite the scoreline being pretty slim in terms of the difference, just being a single goal by Rafinha in the first half. It does not seem to be one of those games where you need Lamine Yamal to necessarily bail you out. As Anthony Gordon here down the left-hand side, brilliant run as he looks to shimmy through two. The question is, did he get a foul? We'll have to wait and see. And if the foul is called, it is on the edge of the box from the left-hand side. It's a brilliant move from Anthony Gordon to just sidestep away and then beat the opposing defender, which in this case was Rincon, who's still quite young, still only 23, Hugo Rincon. And Barca do get the free kick here down the left-hand side. We'll have to see what Barca do with this, as Dani Olmo is one of those standing over the ball here. Looks like he might be the one to swing it in, unless they go out to the edge of the box where Lamine Yamal is and also ready to take a shot from there. They go to Pedri. Pedri to Lamine. Lamine Yamal with a shot. It's blocked by two defenders. They try to clear it. It lands for Fermin Lopez. Fermin down to Anthony Gordon on the left-hand side. Gordon with a cross in. And it's almost... It is really almost for Barca, as Rodri seems to be down. Gordon with a very nice flick and a very, very audacious overhead kick from, I believe, Pau Cubarsí, actually, with the overhead kick there. Very, very... I'll have to watch it again here. Gordon with the cross initially. And Garcia looks to head it into the back of the net. He falls down. Gordon looks for a ball. And the ball is a chip ball into the mixer, really, as it hits Pau Cubarsí. Well, gets to Pau Cubarsí, who tries an overhead kick, a very, very good one as well for a center back. And unfortunately for Cubarsí, not in the back of the net. Eric Garcia seems to have taken a bit of a knock from that. Is able to walk off the pitch, but does walk off the pitch and get substituted here. Jules Koundé coming on for Eric Garcia. And it seems as though Karim Adeyemi is ready and does come on for Anthony Gordon. So, really and truly Roadrunner for Roadrunner in terms of the profile. Very technical Roadrunners, however, and have been very suitable for what Barca are looking for so far. Gordon has had a very good performance again. You know, not necessarily, you know, lighting up the stadium and taking on 10 players and scoring a solo goal and then also adding a free kick to the mix. But very, very good performance. Does exactly what he needs to do. And, well, truthfully, you can't really ask for much more than that. He's been very, very good. And done exactly what was asked of him. And now Karim Adeyemi gets the option to be, in this case, the substitute for Anthony Gordon. Last time it was the other way around. Karim Adeyemi started, scored a goal. Gordon came on, got 2 assists. This time Gordon has not scored, but has created plenty of chances. Has done very well defensively as well. Now Adeyemi comes on. Let's see if he can get on the scoreboard or maybe even set someone up. We'll have to wait and see. Lamine Yamal, of course, still on the pitch. The midfield now, Pedri and Rodri. And now it seems as though we might get to see Alejandro Balde. We'll have to wait and see as the clock is ticking, and we have about 10 minutes to go of regular time as Koundé is getting involved here. Finds Lamine Yamal. Koundé pushing all the way up here as Dani Olmo found him in space. Barça win the ball back off of Athletic Club's initial press, and now the ball is with Karim Adeyemi down the left-hand side. A spot running into the underlap here. Adeyemi with a very nice low driven, and it is a goal, golazo! Gol de Fermin Lopez, and he scores it off of well, luck was definitely on his side that time, and we'll go through that when the replay comes up again. But that is pressure from Barça. That is determination from Karim Adeyemi. Jules Koundé's initial run started all that as Fermin Lopez kisses the badge here, once again being exactly where he needs to be at exactly the right time, celebrating with his Barça teammates, celebrating with Lamine Yamal, of course. Karim Adeyemi, instant impact again. This time, he gets the ball down the left-hand side from Xavi Esparza, goes to take on the defenders, takes on the back line, goes towards the byline, goes for a low-driven cross. It is bounced. It seems, yeah, it's very clearly bounced as the defender tried to take a first touch. I believe that defender might have been Aymeric Laporte. Let's wait and see for confirmation. Yes, it was Aymeric Laporte. Looks to trap the ball as Adeyemi's low-driven cross reached him. His touch is heavy enough to the point where it goes towards Fermin Lopez. And at that point, Unai Simon had already committed to try and taking the ball. It doesn't work. And now Fermin Lopez is in behind Unai Simon with a very gaping goal right in front of him. And all he has to do is tap it into the back of the net, say thank you very much. As a result of that, just like I said, Karim Adeyemi has instantly made an impact this time. So if that's how Hansi Flick is going to run this ship, with Karim Adeyemi and Gordon coming off and coming on for each other and never playing with each other, it's going to be really interesting. And obviously, we're going to see them play with each other at some point, right? That's going to happen, right? Going to get some games where Rafinha isn't needed or where Lamine Yamal isn't needed. And Hansi Flick should feel that he has the depth to play without those players at times. As Barca look to attack again, Fermin Lopez with a very beautiful over-the-top ball here towards Lamine Yamal down the right. Lamine Yamal in for Karim Adeyemi. And that is a brilliant save from Unai Simon as Adeyemi was, well, one-on-one really with Unai Simon with nowhere else to go. It's a really beautiful piece of play by Barca. Again, taking advantage of the chaos in Athletic Club's midfield and Athletic Club's, well, overall defense right now. Finds Lamine Yamal. Brilliant flick from Lamine Yamal into Karim Adeyemi. And just as Adeyemi thinks he's beat Unai Simon with his leg stretched out as he's diving in to save it, does just get enough on the ball to get it out of play. As Athletic Club's attack here seems to be thwarted by an offside flag. Yes, it is. As they were trying to build something here, and Alex Berenguer found himself in an offside position once more. And now, Pedri comes off for João Cancelo, which obviously makes this very, very interesting. As we'll have to see who gets shifted where, given that at this point in time, you have Fermin Lopez, you have Karim Adeyemi, you have Dani Olmo, Lamine Yamal. That's your that's a front four, really. In defense, you just have defenders. You don't have midfielders turn defenders, but you do have Rodri, which means at this point, what we might really see is almost a 4-3-3 with a holding defensive midfielder in Rodri, pushing Fermin and Olmo a little bit further up. And then obviously the question is who that number 9 is. For this time being, it seems to actually be Xavi Esparza. So that's going to be really interesting to see. At this point, he is one of the players furthest up the pitch. And if you had a bingo card for Barça this season, I don't think Xavi Esparza being this far up in attack was on that bingo card. And if it is, you know something I don't. And I would like next week's lottery numbers. But we'll have to see how that goes. As Lamine Yamal here down the right-hand side thought about looking for Jules Koundé. Dribbles very well, looks for a ball through. It almost works. Koundé does get the bounce, finds Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal with a shot. It is kicked away by Unai Simon. Barca attacking relentlessly to thwart that counterattack and do so instantly with a ball that goes in behind for a goal kick for Athletic Club, even though the ball was just at the halfway line. So again, incredible energy from Barca once more. Of course, the question of the long-term sustainability will be the big question. Of course, for that, you need squad depth, especially players that understand the style of play. And it does look as though Barca have been recruiting with that in mind this season, of course, with more resources at their disposal, as Joan Garcia threads it in between two players to find Rodri. Rodri does fall to ground this time to find support down the left. And now it does look as though we're seeing Dani Olmo at the 9. So what I'm thinking we'll see now is Jules Koundé and Jacques Cancelo as the fullbacks, Pau Cubarsí in that center back position with Gerard Martin. And then Xavi Espart is actually being just pushed to midfield, which does give him license to roam, which is why we saw him at the 9 momentarily. And then he switched back to midfield. Now Dani Olmo is there. And what you're probably going to see is Olmo, Fermin, and Espart interchanging who runs in behind and who hugs the shoulder of the last defender, which is going to be very, very interesting because Xavi Espart's passing range has been ridiculous with the first team. Obviously, always been a talented player, and no doubt about that. And he's shown that from minute one, but obviously has been deployed as a fullback with license to push up. But obviously, playing in midfield is going to be a little bit different. Scotty Madiemi now is actually slotted into midfield. And again, the beauty of the way Hansi Flick's football is going right now is that previously you would have certain players stuck to certain positions. You'd see your left midfielder would constantly be stretching the left. Now what we're seeing is something incredibly different. We're seeing every player switching into the position where the space is. You're seeing Olmo playing right back. You're seeing Olmo playing striker. You're seeing Lamine Yamal playing right mid. Then he's helping out in midfield. Same thing with Karim Adeyemi playing on the left. As he has found to the back of the net here, almost, as Lamine Yamal this time finds Karim Adeyemi with a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful finessed cross into the back post. And Adeyemi once again denied by Unai Simon as he was timing his run to absolute perfection. And all he had to do was tap it in. Unfortunately for him, by the time the ball got to him, Unai Simon was there and made himself big and denied Barca the third goal of the night. But again, Karim Adeyemi and Lamine Yamal have really been connecting well. Lamine Yamal here, brilliant touch to get away from pressure. Finds Fermin Lopez. Fermin back into Lamine Yamal. Lamine down the right. And it's really, really good defending here from Aymeric Laporte again, this time now, following the mistake that caused, in big part, caused the goal that Fermin Lopez ultimately ended up scoring. Has picked himself back up. Aymeric Laporte, the World Cup winner, of course, the center back pairing with Pau Cubarsí during that World Cup, has picked himself back up now in the latter stages of this game as we approach the final stanza, as Rodri almost found Fermin Lopez through Karim Adeyemi with a slide tackle to win the ball back. He does, but Athletic Club get it back right away, and Barca unable to really keep it in play as Gerard Martin looked to get it all the way back to Joan Garcia. It seemed it did go out for a throw-in, however, and now Athletic Club looking to make something happen down the left. Berenguer is in an offside position, forced to go back now. Aymeric Laporte is pushed up beyond the halfway line, as has his center back partner, who at this point remains Yeray Alvarez. And for Yeray Alvarez, again, at the age that he is at, with the way his career has gone, it's impressive to still be playing in these big games in La Liga. But undoubtedly a club icon for Athletic Club and for Basque football, given his presence at Athletic Club, a brilliant player in his own right. But for Barca now, tonight, they have been able to make the most of the issues in Athletic Club as Lamine Yamal looks for a long ball here over the top again, this time towards Dani Olmo, but just mistimed it that time. And what we will see is 4 minutes of injury time to this one, as Barca are comfortably in the lead with a 2-goal cushion here, as Athletic Club have failed to score in this game. And, well, if this score holds, Athletic Club will remain winless for their start in La Liga and actually have gotten 2 losses on the bounce. The first one was at the San Mamés against, well, this last game. This is, I believe, the 3rd game for Athletic Club. So they played their last game against Sevilla. That was the first game of the league. They played that game August 22nd. So last Saturday, lost to Sevilla 3-1 at the San Mamés. Now they went to the Camp Nou, and currently they're losing 2-0. As Barca look to attack again down the left-hand side here. Ball goes back to Rodri, over to Lamine Yamal down the middle here. Lamine Yamal looking for a shot, goes for it after taunting the defense, and ultimately could not apply enough power to beat Unai Simon, who, for all, regardless of the fact that he's conceded 2 goals, or rather, if we take the 2 goals and we put them to the side, he has not had a horrible performance. He's actually been quite solid. And had it not been for him, Barca would have scored more goals in the first half than just the one. And Karim Adeyemi would have had at least 2 goals at this point. And that is in the last 10 minutes. So good performance from Unai Simon. Once again, can hold his head high. Unfortunately for him, what Terzic is building does not seem to be working at this time. And of course, again, you could obviously always make the argument that it takes time. As Barca looked to attack, Fermin found Olmo looked for a back heel, and it did not work out as Barca lose possession. And Fermin, fighting to get it back, ends up holding the shirt, really, of Adama, conceding a foul in the last 2 minutes, presumably just to disrupt the flow, if any, that Athletic Club would have had in that transition, which, again, they have been genuinely horrible tonight in transition. Athletic Club have not been able to make the most of anything, really, and haven't really looked decent, haven't really looked that solid in midfield either, as they push up here through the middle, looking for options, going for a diagonal switch over to the left-hand side. Alex Berenguer is there, but as is Jules Koundé, who, as he tries to control it, falls into Alex Berenguer, who gets it, runs towards the byline. Koundé chases him and kicks it out of play, and that will be a corner for Athletic Club once more. Koundé wearing the armband here after coming on, of course. No Pedri on the pitch, no Rafinha on the pitch, and does well to really recover from the initial slip up there. It's Berenguer gets ready to take this corner here. 1 minute to go of injury time, and it is an in-swinger. It goes towards the near post, and it is immediately cleared by Barca. They might try again here as he gets the ball on the left, goes for a cross, and this time it does reach an Athletic Club player, but his header was never in a million years, and that header is from Yaray, was never in a million years troubling Joan Garcia, as it was not powerful enough and also trickled very, very, very wide. And of course, for Terzic, with a past in Dortmund where things didn't really go particularly well either, it does not seem to be that his long-term future will lie with this club, unless he really manages to really deliver on a project that he had promised when he first took on this role here just recently. And on that note, Barca have heard the final whistle, as have Athletic Club, and this game ends with a score of 2-0. Barca victorious, 2 on the bounce, the first against Elche, the second against Athletic Club. This one with the debut of Rodrigo Hernandez. Rodri, the number 16, the World Cup winner, the Champions League winner, the everything winner. Rodri is at Barca and has had his debut. Has looked quite solid for a player that's just joined, especially in a position like midfield. It's never easy to adapt quickly. Unai Simon gets the official Man of the Match award presented by La Liga, and deservedly so. Truthfully, that is all we can say on that. For Barca, the next games are going to be tough. It's going to be a tough stretch of games here for this Catalan side, going up against Celta Vigo next. Athletic Club are going up against Celta Vigo, then against Atleti, and then facing Elche. And for Barca, it looks vastly different. Of course, they've now faced Elche with a 5-0 beating. They've faced Athletic Club with a 2-0 victory. No goals conceded, 7 goals scored. In fact, I know they are the only team to not concede a goal in La Liga so far, aside from Real Betis, who are in 4th and have won both their games with 1 goal scored in each game. So a +2 goal difference compared to a +7 that Barca has. And also for Barca, the highest goal difference in La Liga in the entire team. Real Madrid in second so far, of course, still very early on in the season, with a +4 goal difference, having conceded two and scored six, and have also won two games, as have Sevilla and as have Real Betis. So, well, those four teams have won two games. Then you have a stretch of Getafe, Espanyol, Osasuna, Atleti, and Deportivo Alaves, who have won a game each. Deportivo, Atleti, and Osasuna have drawn a game. And then from Villarreal and down, so from the 10th position in La Liga to the 20th, where Real Sociedad find themselves right now. Athletic Club find themselves in 19th. Again, super early on the season. It's two games. Chill out. But they have not won a single game. And matter of fact, for Athletic Club and Real Sociedad, the two Basque teams, the two big Basque teams, I should say, have not drawn a game either. They've lost both games. So, again, Athletic Club will face Celta, and Barça will face Rayo Vallecano, then Valencia at the Mestalla. And then it's time for Champions League football. Man City, Aston Villa, Feyenoord, and Como are potential options. Well, there are many potential options. You're talking Sporting, you're talking PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, you're talking Galatasaray. And one of the potential options is from Azerbaijan, Sabah FK, actually, who find themselves with one win out of one game in their league so far. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that Champions League game, but that should take place not too long from now. But Bata's next game is against Rayo Vallecano. It is this coming Monday, the 31st of this month. It is 9:30 local time. And just as a little fun fact for you to leave you with before we finish up here. Again, Athletic Club are facing Celta, and Celta had a very interesting game today. So they had played against Valencia, where they drew 0-0, and then they played against Osasuna, where they actually, trying to find the actual scoreline here just to be absolutely sure. They played against Osasuna. Iago Aspas scored in the 14th minute. Marcos Alonso got himself sent off with a red card in the 51st. And I actually believe it was a straight red as well, if I'm not mistaken. It was a straight red. He had initially gotten a yellow. The yellow was canceled after a VAR review. He was given a red card 3 minutes after that. And right after that, Osasuna scored 3 minutes later through Kike Barja, and then through Ante Budimir on a penalty, winning that game in the 64th minute, clinching that. And that is how that ended. So those are the two games for La Liga today. And yesterday was Real Madrid against Real Sociedad. Mbappe scored his first goal of the game. Sucic replied with the equalizer. And then Mbappe went crazy, scored another goal. Vini scored in the 68th. And then Mbappe finished off his hat trick in the 80th, scoring in the 40th, 60th, and 80th minute. And again, that was Jose Mourinho's homecoming to the Santiago Bernabeu, of course, in his exit stint in Real Madrid. And this La Liga season is going to be very interesting, is what I'm trying to say. And we'll have to see how everything pans out. Of course, again, Julian Alvarez saga seems to be dead. You never know what happens in football, but realistically, at this point, it is very optimistic to assume that there is even the slightest chance that Barca could negotiate a deal with Atleti. In fact, the two options out of this for Julian Alvarez would be, one, to try to see legal action, if that is possible, really, with regards to whether his release clause matches his market value his just overall value as a player, his market value, his salary, and seeing if those match, and if that release clause was put in bad faith, because there is precedent on that from quite a long time ago. The other option would then be to say, I'm going to retire and I'm going to come back. And when I come back, I'm going to come back and to La Liga, and I'm going to join Barca, right? Aside from that, what's probably going to happen is he's most likely going to stay, because I do imagine that he's also aware of the fact that after what has happened with this whole Atleti Barca Julian Alvarez saga, if he does go to Arsenal, they're going to not want to let him go to Barca, just because they don't want to let him go to Barca, unless he is absolutely terrible for them. Um, and you would imagine that a player of that quality would have more pride than to deliberately play poorly for a new club that assigned you and paid money for you. If big if he goes to Arsenal, right? But with Atleti now, um, either we see a Griezmann sort of redemption where he gets back up on the horse and saddles up for El Cholo and for the squad, and and ends up being happy at Atleti again, and then maybe in a year Barca try to sign him again, if not in January. Um, but a lot could happen. A lot could happen. I still think, for all the things that have been said, that Barca want to see Juli do as much as he can to force this. All I'm going to say is this: yeah, Memphis Depay, who is a good player, but he's not in the greatest of all time conversation, was able to, through social media, pressure Corinthians, who were not willing to renew him, into renewing him and presenting him as their number 10 again. Um, and that is a power move. And that is Memphis Depay. And that is Corinthians, whose fans are calling for the board's head and have been doing so for a long, long, long time. Now, of course, the situation is different at Atleti. But if Juli Alvarez was to come out, and instead of saying, I want to fulfill my dream, which he did at the World Cup, which that's what he said during the World Cup, right? In the build to the World Cup. That's what he said. He said he wants to fulfill his dream, right? As those were his words, right? If he goes out and he says, Barca are my dream club, and that's where I hope to be one day, that's going to put some pressure on Atleti. And I'm not trying to give Alvarez any ideas. This video will realistically never reach him, right? Um, and if it does, it would probably have to be in Spanish. Um, but that's besides the point. The only thing he could really try to do is come out publicly and say something. We've seen it before. We've seen it before with players in the Premier League as well. I fail to remember exactly which one. In the chat, let me know if you remember this specific incident. Incident is a big word here, but he made the player had made an Instagram story post about how he just wants to be wanted by a club and just wants to play football. And I really don't remember who the player was. But it was not a small name either. It was a decent, mediumly big name in at that club at the time, and it did cause some ruckus, to be fair. So I suppose what I'm trying to say here is, if Juli Alvarez wants out, you did sign a contract for X amount of time, which is obviously the argument that Atleti fans are making, saying that, well, you did sign the contract. No one forced you. No one took your arm and said, sign the contract, big boy. You did that yourself, which is not a bad argument to make. However, it also very conveniently omits the fact that, according to the reports that have circulated, he was told by Fernando Hidalgo, his agent, said that there was talk back around February, March, between the Atleti leadership and Juli Alvarez and his entourage, that we could look at you leaving the club if you want to do that. Obviously, we'd love for you to stay, but if you do want to leave, we'll talk about it then. And obviously, what happened was that at the start of August 10th, absolutely nothing happened, and they kept dodging his calls, and they kept not wanting to meet with him. And again, if you're going to talk about professionalism, look at your social media team, Atleti. That's all I'm going to say, because you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't make tea for your guest and then drink all of it. That's not how it works. And so, if you're going to say that Barca have not shown professionalism, Barca have tapped up our player, and all this, and say Alvarez fue tapado and all this, right? It's not. That's that happens in football. Clubs talk to players in football all the time. They talk to clubs, but they also talk to players. How many times have you not heard the phrase that the club has reached an agreement with the player, but they're going to start the club-to-club talks? And you don't hear all this I don't want to throw out some words here, but you don't hear all this stuff when it comes to many clubs. We've seen it time and time and time again. It's not a new phenomenon that clubs talk to players to see, do you want to join us? And then say, okay, now we can talk to the club. And in Atleti's case, this hatred almost makes very little sense because, again, Barca and David Villa were done, right? David Villa joined Atleti. Barca and Luis Suarez were done. Luis Suarez joined Atleti. Atleti and Griezmann weren't really getting along, and Griezmann joined Barca. Barca and Griezmann weren't getting along. They gave him back to Atleti. Atleti didn't want João Felix. Barca took him. Barca have not been the bad guy throughout the years to warrant this kind of stuff, you know? And obviously, as Bloganagram, it does appear to be very biased for me to say this, but I'm talking from an objective standpoint here as well. If you look at the facts that Atleti will present will be that, oh, but they tapped up our player, they haven't been respectful in the way they've handled themselves. And then when you hear John Laporta's side of the story, it's vastly different. And for Miguel Gilmarin, all he's saying is that I don't want to sell to Barca. I'm not selling to Barca. I'm selling to anyone else, just not Barca. And he's treating it like Barca are this deal with the devil club. When the fact of the matter is that you're holding a player hostage that doesn't want to play with you just because your ego was hurt. And the player does not want to leave to a different club. He wants to leave to this club that you reportedly had told him that he could go to at the end of the season. So really, it feels, quite frankly, pathetic to talk about this as though Julian Alvarez is the bad guy or as though Barca are the bad guy here. It's just a matter of what the player desires. And yeah, he has a contract, but very few players see out their contracts unless it's a club that they're looking at, unless it's like their dream club. Very few players see out their contracts in this day and age. In this economy, that doesn't happen very often. It's very common now for players to sign a deal on like 5 years, 6 years. If you're Chelsea, probably 20 years. And then halfway through say, you know what? I'm leaving. And the club will be like, okay, well, we don't win from having you here if you don't want to be here because you're not going to be fully motivated. That's going to hurt us as well as you. And we don't want that. But for Miguel Gilmarin and for the Atleti leadership, it seems, the idea is to say that we want you to stay because we don't want you to go to Barca. It has nothing to do with whether Barca are direct competition for the Liga title. And it has everything to do with the fact that Atleti are walking around with an inferiority complex and saying that they're the small club, and the big bad boys of La Liga are really trying to eat them up, right? And this is coming from a club whose CEO is part of the big heads in La Liga. If you didn't know that, so you're not as small as you think, Atleti, but you're definitely acting like, I'm going to go on a limb and say this even Leganés, when Barca signed Martin Braithwaite, at a time that did not allow Leganés to find his replacement, did not act like this. They didn't. And again, you could obviously say, well, that was a different story, right? Because there was a different clause in the contract and all that jazz, right? But Leganés didn't try to do this big social media power play and all these jokes as disguised as, these half official statements that clearly are not official statements, but they're statements on behalf of the club. They're clearly not just jokes. They're trying to say this is what Barca are doing when Barca hadn't even opened their mouth publicly at the time. So this has become a bit of a rant. This will go up as an episode of the Driven Shot podcast. If you haven't watched that yet, you're missing out. It is a collaborative effort between Bloganagram and Mundo Deportivo. It is on their YouTube channel as well as on all the nice listening platforms like Spotify and all that good jazz. So just search the Driven Shot, sort for podcasts, or just search for the Driven Shot podcast on Google and it should pop right up. This will go up as a separate episode. This part here after the full time review. And so if you've missed anything, you can see it there, or you could try to rewind this live. I think on some of the platforms that we're streaming this on multiple platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and we're looking into TikTok. So yeah, if you're watching it on one of those, you might be able to go back. But if you can't, and you do want to hear the rest of what I said before this will be out on Mundo Deportivo's YouTube channel in not so long. So that is it. I've been Omar Hawash, commentator, ranter, journalist, and just a frustrated follower of Sparta. Just because, again, it's at this point, I think a lot of Barca fans are not feeling this way because it's Julian Alvarez. They're feeling this way because it just doesn't seem like the actions by Atleti are backed by any sort of actual logic, and more so just emotion. Because I almost guarantee you, if Atleti received an actual offer from Real Madrid or Villarreal or Julian Alvarez, they would not hesitate to say, let's sit down and talk. It's not about direct competition. It's really not. Realistically, at this point, Villarreal are more of a direct competition to Atleti than Barca is, because Atleti have not really come near the title race on a consistent basis. So, like, let's say they were in the title race for like a 1 week or 2 week stretch, right? That's nothing compared to Girona a couple of seasons ago when they were top of the table by January, almost, right? That's a different type of title race that you're chasing. That's a different type of chasing that you're doing. And for Atleti, I have no doubt, genuinely, if Villarreal said we have 100 million plus or whatever your asking price is, we want Julian Alvarez, Atleti are not going to say we don't want to talk to you, even though they are direct competition. That's not the problem. It's all about emotions. And that is ridiculous when we're talking about hundreds of millions of euros, dollars, pounds, just being thrown around like it's nothing, right? But that is it. I'm interested to see how you guys what you guys thought of this. And I'll see you next time. I've been Omar Hawass. Barca won again. It's 2-0. It is August 27th, and I'm signing out.